promised you all a performance review on this shoe, so we have a performance review on this shoe. Welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. My name is Jalik, and today we have a performance review on Russell Westbrook's 5th signature sneaker, the Jordan Why Not 0.5. Shall we go ahead and get straight into it? Cool. Starting off with the traction on the shoe, data-driven traction pattern, sus outsole, whatever you guys want to call it. In my experience, this was satisfactory performance. While I think here and there I may have had a little bit of lag on certain movements, I'm really not 100% sure just because the bite is so quiet on these. It's really hard to tell. But what I can say is playing on some floors that are in dire need of a refinish, where I know a lot of other people in various shoes from various brands were slipping and sliding. I didn't notice that I was doing it so much compared to everyone else on the floor, so I do think that these deserve a little bit of credit for that. Although not perfect, I would prefer the rubber to be a little bit more pliable, especially on some of these nub areas where you would think that it would be a little more pliable. But overall, I never really felt that any type of disadvantage by wearing the shoes. On some nights, I do kind of just play a more up and down style, really just getting up and back on defense. And then some other nights, I'm kind of dependent on more as a shooter, so I have to do a lot of moving around the perimeter, pick and rolls, taking screens, rejecting screens, every now and then trying to split through the defense by using some type of shiftiness. I don't got a lot, but you know, these worked out for me. Now, I have not played in these outdoors. I'm not sure if I will. I would say don't rely too heavily on the durability. I'll admit there's a lot less wear playing indoors than I expected it to be on these, but because they are mostly just nubs, I don't expect that these will last very long outside on more grainier surfaces. So just keep that in mind if you are looking for an outdoor shoe. Cushion on the shoe, I was impressed with. I wouldn't say I was overwhelmingly surprised or overwhelmingly impressed by them. But what I like about the Why Not 5 cushion setup is it is a lot lower to the ground than I expected it to be. And then you do have a large volume of zoom air in the forefoot, so you do get some responsiveness out of it. That's something I very much appreciate these days. It's just a nice balanced cushion. Now, if you're someone that has played in a lot of the Westbrook signatures prior to the 5s, it may not be anything special to you, but for me, coming from basically the one take series, even though it's not a lot different from that setup either, I did still appreciate it, and I felt like that the little bit extra volume of zoom in the forefoot did make somewhat of a difference, at least for me and the type of movements that I like to make on the floor. So I do appreciate that. There's not any cushion in the heel, however, I think it's adequate enough where you shouldn't be experiencing too much pain or anything like that. If you happen to be a heel striker, you shouldn't be, but if you do happen to be, I think the 5 line is alright in them. Materials in the upper of the shoe, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with them. I do appreciate that they're very lightweight and breathable. Zero break-in time required in my opinion. If you guys checked out the initial review that I had on these, you know I also had the Honor the Gift colorway. I am very glad that I decided not to play in those. I do think the standard pairs are the way to go as far as performance on court goes. But the only downside that I really feel comes with these is they don't feel quite substantial as far as support and containment goes. At the end of the day, it is more of a mental thing, I think, for me, being that I didn't really bust through the materials or anything like that. I mean, they've even kind of been pretty durable as far as where it goes. They haven't really taken a whole lot of damage, but I just couldn't really, it really couldn't escape my mind just how light the materials felt, I guess is the best way to put it. Super cozy, very comfortable shoe on foot, but sometimes comfort doesn't always equate to security. I do wish that these first two nylon cables here for the lacing system were a little bit more symmetrical. I feel like that also contributed to a little bit of the disconnect I felt as far as lockdown goes. It's really hard to say for sure just because the rest of the eyelets are pretty much symmetrical themselves. It's just those first two there, I just felt like I don't know, the materials just didn't really hold me down the way I would have wanted them to up there in the forefoot. But even though the lockdown was a little sus, you see how I tied that back there? I do feel like these are true to size as far as fit goes. I wouldn't recommend going down a half size unless you are a super narrow footer, and if you are a wide footer, just because of how light and flexible the materials are, I think wide footers will be okay going with their true size as well. Now, other than that possibly placebo feeling of the lockdown not being that great, support actually is pretty good overall on these. You sit a little bit within the midsole, so I didn't experience any rollovers or anything significant as far as lateral movements go and containment. The midfoot shank connecting the decoupled outsole is very significant, so no issues with any torsional movements, over movements, anything of that nature for me. And then I am actually a big fan of the heel containment in this shoe. Very lightweight. I mentioned this before, it's kind of Kobe-esque as far as how lightweight and flexible it is, but still actually does its job of containing. That coupled with some of the sculpting that you have on the inside around the heel area, really on point for me. As mentioned before, if it wasn't just for the, I guess, slightly insecure feeling that I had playing in these, if the materials were just beefed up just a little bit more, maybe a little bit thicker, I don't know, a little bit stronger feeling, I think these would definitely be a top option for me as far as performance picks go so far in this year. But overall, I would have to say I am not really looking to go back to this pair. It is not a bad pair at all. I think a lot of people would be surprised by the performance of it if they gave it a shot, but I do feel like there are a lot of other options that are worth your money, especially at $130 price point. Kyrie Infinities are killing it. Mellow MB1s are killing it. Even the takedown of this, the One Take 3, is similar enough and $30 less. Killing it. So with shoes like those on the market, I would have a hard time recommending this to you. However, I definitely wouldn't steer you away if it's something that you're interested in trying out yourself. If you do happen to be interested in trying out the Jordan Why 5, as mentioned before, the standard retail pairs are running for $130. We will link you if you are interested in checking those out. And then as far as more thoughts that I have on a performance review, you can check out the written performance review, which will be coming up very shortly after this video post. We will link you to that as well. And that's all I really have. Stay tuned. I don't know what the next shoe I will be doing a performance review on will be, but stay tuned, see what we got coming up. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until the next time I see you guys, take care of yourselves, take care of one another. I'm out.